Welcome, I'm Dragon. Today I will be showing you how to make an upgrade for your 3D printer using Blender. I will personally be using an Ender 3 Pro printer and making a little shelf for it. Here's where this shelf will be going on this 3D printer. But without any further ado, let's get into the tutorial. First things first, go get the measurements for your model, then in Blender, make sure to go into the Scene Property tab and change the length to millimeters and the unit scale to 0.001 if you're using Prusa Slicer. I'm not sure if this is the same for Cura, but for Prusa Slicer, if you want the exact measurements, then this is what you should do. You could leave it on meters if you wanted it to be meters, but I find millimeters easier to work with. So before I model the shelf itself, I want to model something so that this shelf can slide into the T-beam that is on the Ender printer. So here's what the T-beam looks like. So as you can see, I need more of a trapezoid shape to make this so it can slide and the shelf can be secure. So that is what I'm currently doing, and then when that's finished, I just extrude it outward so that it is as long as I want the shelf. Then I hide that object, add a cube, and scale this and extrude it to what I want the shelf dimensions to be like. Once I have the shelf and the dimensions that I like, then I take that other object that I modeled earlier and put it on this cube where I want it to fit. Now I go and select the front face of this shelf and fill it and then duplicate it so that I can have a little outline. The reason I want an outline is just so that I can 3D print it and make sure that I got the basic dimensions right. The reason I'm not using the little T-bar connectors and sliders is mainly just because I just wanted something quick that let me know that I got these dimensions correct. Once I 3D printed this little test model, I then moved on to putting the shelves into this big box. To do this, I inset it, and then I just extrude it inward so that it's mostly toward the end, and then I basically have the shelf. Then I select the insides of the shelf, duplicate them, and scale them down with individual origins about 0.1 to 0.2 millimeters. The reason I'm doing this is mainly just because printers aren't exactly 100% accurate and usually are off by 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters. So by doing this, I can guarantee that it will still slide in and out of this shelf. Though I do decide not to keep this sliding thing, I just decide to continually show you so that you know how to do it if you want to in the future. Then I delete the tops and then go in and add a solidify modifier. The solidify modifier just makes it easier to make it thicker so that I don't have to worry about thickness. Then I just customize this. I was trying to come up with a handle idea and then finally came up with one, just adding a loop cut and going downward and having little down loop cuts. So this actually looked pretty cool, and then I beveled the edges and bang, I'm done with the shelf. But then I did go in and add my dragon logo afterward. I also decided to add a hole in the side of this shelf because there's a hole in the printer, so I'm just going to let the air escape this way. And before I print this, I decide to go check the face orientation by selecting the little drop down arrow next to the transparent x-ray view, and then select face orientation. If there's any red, that means that the faces are on the opposite side, meaning that they basically won't be printed unless you have the slicer and it fixes those errors for you. But it's better just to fix it in Blender by going Option M and recalculating them if they are the wrong direction. As you can see, where I made that new hole, there were opposites, and then fixed it by recalculating them outside. And then for the final thing before I print this model is test models. And I mean a lot of test models. A lot. A little too many, in my opinion. So yeah, I may have had a few test models, but overall I think it turned out fine because I finally got the measurements of this shelf correct. So that means I can print it and see how it looks. So, I do want to mention though, I will not be printing the shelves or the sliding part of the shelf. The main reason for this is because even though it does make it easier to take models in and out, it does take a little bit of space and it takes a while to print, along with a decent amount of filament. So, maybe I will get to it sometime, but at the moment, I'm just going to leave it, and I don't really mind it. Let's jump straight into what it looks like 3D printed. So here it is. As you can see, it fits very snugly on this printer and is not coming out whatsoever. And as you can see, I have currently put a couple things inside of them, including the clippers that came with it, the spare springs. Well, not really spare. I bought better springs and replaced them and put those ones in there just because why not? And then I also put the little screw things to screw everything in. I also want to mention that this thing actually fits so smoothly that I actually had to use a hammer and kind of hammer it in because it was like a very perfect fit, but very hard to push in it. So I just used a hammer and slightly did it. And as you can see, if you lift it up a little bit, it totally works. And just to show you that it can be lifted up completely, here is me holding it. And now, so you can see inside it, I got a flashlight, and now you can see how far back it goes. So it actually looks pretty cool. You can see that it goes back decent ways, and as you can see on the one area, you can see that hole that I made, and then you can also see the little teeny holes that the printer already had installed so that air could circulate a little better. Well, that basically does it for this shelf tutorial. I hope you had fun building it if you decide to build it. If you just want to download it and print it for yourself, then feel free to. A link in the description below will take you to my mini factory and you can print it out. And that will also include the shelves to slide in and out if you want to print those. It's up to you, but personally, I'm probably not. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and bye! Video on first prints on Ender 3 Pro coming soon.